Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it, Mark, will come down to what they can get for him. And I think even before the playoffs, I think around the league, there is a real disparity in terms of how they value Ben Simmons. Some teams, organizations, franchises, I think really thought, wow, look at all the things this guy does at this size, versatility, et cetera, et cetera. But then other teams are like, all right, is he a 1? Is he a 4? Is he a point forward? We don't want to play 4 and 5 in the half court, which is essentially what the Sixers did, especially in the fourth quarter. He didn't take a shot in the last 4 fourth quarters, did not attempt a field goal in the last 4 fourth quarters because he was scared to death, to get fouled and go to the line. Mm-hmm. So I don't think you want to give him away like they did with Fultz 2.5 years ago to another number 1 overall pick. But it depends what you can get for him. If you can't, if Morey thinks it's going to be a net loss and you're not going to get a star, or at least somebody who's going to be really good in return and draft picks or whatever, maybe you roll a dice on, he's actually going to get it and embarrassment will turn into, working and addressing these, shortcomings that were magnified in this, incredible May-June regression that he suffered. But I don't think if you're offered 40 cents on the dollar, I just don't know, unless you're just, all right, we have to get rid of him. If it's a horrible, untenable situation, it's one thing, but it doesn't seem like it's that, although the fans, and rightly so, are pretty disappointed. That passing up that dunk with 3:29 to go in the fourth quarter of a close game when Trae Young's the only defender there who's 6'1" and moves toward you, and you just have to jump and drop the ball through the basket. You give it to Matisse Thybulle, who's double teamed, gets fouled, makes 1 out of 2, and Joel Embiid points to that as the turning point in the game afterward, I think speaks volumes.
Do you think that Joel Embiid doesn't want to play with Ben anymore? Do you think it's something like that, or do you think this is something that's purely in the front office? If it exists at all?
I think he wants to win, and I think he thinks, look, I played with a torn meniscus, a small tear in my meniscus. I did everything I could. I thought we were good enough. We're not. Maybe we need to figure out why we're not good enough and address some of these needs. I mean, the easiest way for them to get better would be Maxey improves, Thybulle improves, and Paul Reed improves. They're young guys. They're on the roster. They have rookie contracts. They're not making a lot of money. But I still don't know if that will get you over the hump. They could be good supporting players, but you still need, the Nets have a big 3. The Sixers, you can argue, have a big 3. At the defensive end, they have a big 3, probably, or at least a big 2. And the offensive end, they have a big 2. But it's a very interesting situation. And it was also interesting that Rivers, who supported, to the Brett Brown level, Simmons the whole time, in the last 3 games, you did hear some, criticism, and he did take him out of games, which tells you how bad it was.
Wow, Tom, that's mind-blowing. The names you went to, and I agree with what you're saying. I'm certainly not disagreeing. Maxey, Thybulle, and Paul Reed. Them to improve. And I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's like, but also, if this one guy at $177 million, who was a rookie of the year, is a 3-time All-Star, if he doesn't do the most basic thing in basketball, like it's almost that you're more confident Maxey will take a step forward, Thybulle will, maybe even Paul Reed, then Ben Simmons will even develop that other aspect of his game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying that on the roster, the best way the good teams keep getting good draft picks. They don't necessarily play a lot right away, but they develop. The Dante DiVincenzo's, guys like that, with the Bucks from Villanova, Delaware, and so on. But when you have 3 guys making next year, we'll be making $100 million, which is 76% of the Sixers cap figure, it limits what you can do. So what they would have to do, let's say they have a $10 million option for George Hill. They're probably going to pick that up, even if they plan on trading him, because if they just let him go, they don't get to replace that. Same thing with Danny Green. He's a free agent. They could sign him to a 2-year, $30 million deal, $15 million and $15 million, and trade him, or potentially package him with Hill at $25 million, and then maybe you can sign and trade for Lowry or something like that. They have to be very creative. They have a taxpayer mid-level exception, which is supposed to be about $5.8 million, and other than that, it's minimum salaries. So when you go all in with big money guys, you have to get your guys, and then you can't let them go. You can't let them walk, because you can't replace that money. So that's the thing. And they're already in luxury tax territory, next year. Josh Harris has said, I'll pay the tax if we have a chance to win the championship. Thought they had a chance this year, didn't do it. So is he willing to spend even more potentially next year? Maybe, possibly. But, I don't know. Those are all things that, could potentially come into play.